All right, so here's the interior without it being on, but it looks really nice. I have to say, honestly, like, I'll turn the ignition on, I won't start it up, but so here's the initial startup menu and everything like that, which this side's pretty cool how it starts up like this. I will say the screen quality, you know, everything else is really good on the radio and on the actual TFT screen here. So it is really nice. My God, we know the door. Oh my God, it tells you everything that it could possibly want to tell you. So there's the screen, which is really nice, looks really clear. Same way with the radio, it looks really nice. So in here you do have your volume controls. This is basically set for your cruise control right here and your volume controls. And then over here you have all your menu controls and everything like that, where you can track, select, and menu. And I mean, it's very well laid out. The buttons are a little bit cheap feeling. They're not like rubber, they're kind of like old plastic buttons, but it does the job and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. All the buttons in here are kind of plasticky. They're kind of like Mustangs, very similar setup, very similar collar setup as well. And then down here, it has all your basic like rubber knobs down here, which feel really nice. And then you have the plastic buttons here as well. I will say the interior of this looks really nice. I do like this. This knob is really nice. This rubber on the outside of it as well. Everything in here is really nice looking and it feels really nice. And hopefully it will hold up just as long as it looks as good as it does. So hopefully Ford has made stuff now to where it will last a lot longer than what they used to in the past, because that was my biggest complaint about Ford, and the longevity of the parts and buttons, and you know, the buttons wearing and you can see through them and everything like that. Okay, I really like the interior. I will say I give it definitely a 9 or 9.5 out of 10. The interior engages and radio and everything looks really, really nice. I definitely like the layout and the way it's all set up. So I'm in the back. Right now I have this seat put where I would have it, and my knees are up against the back of this seat. So there's not a tremendous amount of leg room in here, I would say, comparable to like a CRV, but enough to where you sit in here comfortably. I don't know about putting 3 people back here either, especially if you had a child seat. I would say this is more along the lines of the size of a car, not as a SUV. I would make this more like a small car versus more like a CRV or a Pilot or an SUV. And up here, my head has plenty of headroom, which is pretty awesome. I will say that's a plus about this, is that it has a lot of headroom from here to here. But as far as leg room, you definitely kind of lose that feature. And you do have a USB, and you do have a 110 outlet on the bottom down here, which is pretty nice that they do give you those options on the back of the center console. On the backs of these, on the back of the seats, they have these little pouches, which I think is a pretty awesome idea. They also have these little pouches on the sides of the seats too, which is pretty cool, that you can like slide your phone and everything like that down in there. That's a pretty awesome idea. And this, in the leather is super clean and nice, except for where people have wiped their stuff on it. But this leather, the stitching, everything is really nice. And then they have these, you know, I don't know what you want to call these little things, but they're like little pouches down in here as well. Like you can put like your cables and things like that, and then they have the pouch up here that you can put stuff in as well. So it's, and it goes down to the bottom like about there. So that is a pretty nice feature that this Bronco Sport has. And this is the back area right here, which there's a ton of room here. I'll kind of show you when I get inside here, but it does have these little lights up in here, which is pretty cool, that you can actually move. Like you can adjust them, which is pretty cool. So when you're back here and you need light, you can adjust these to where you can make more light. You can actually turn them on over here as well. They have a little light switch over here to turn those on, which I think is really, really, really nice. It also has an extra power outlet back here, which this thing's pretty versatile. It has a lot of stuff in it. You want to go ahead and sit back there, Beavis? Let's see how much room we have back here. We'll kind of show you with a person how much room. Now, I would never put a person back here, but you can see how much room is back here. I would say this is not quite as big as a CRV or anything like that, or a RAV4, but it definitely has a pretty decent hatch setup. I would say it's more like an Outlander Sport, something along those lines. But
yeah, it's pretty cool. It has little hooks right here for like,
yeah, and you have
like a little hook here and a little hook here.
Look here. and a hook on this side, which is pretty nice. I do think the light idea right here is pretty cool, how you can turn on those lights, and he turned those on from in there on the switch, and then you can turn them on. But turn those back on again, buddy. Isn't that cool? I think that's an awesome idea. This particular model does have the sensitivity where you can lock and unlock from here, and it also has the keypad right here as well, which is pretty cool. So when you open this up, see how it lights up? That is pretty cool. And here is the wonderful engine bay. Not much to look at, but we wanted to show you guys what it looks like under here. If you accidentally leave it in drive and then you push the start button, it motorizes itself back to park. That's pretty smart. All right, so we're gonna drive this 2021 Ford Bronco Sport. Might even be a 2022. I believe it's in between a 2021 and 2022. So we'll just call it a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport. There's a major difference between the Ford Bronco and the Ford Bronco Sport. So that's what we're driving today, is the actual Ford Bronco Sport. This only has 1,000 miles on it. It's been definitely thoroughly tested and drove on. The customer who owns this loves it. She said nothing but great things about driving this vehicle. So we want to kind of drive it and show you what we think about this vehicle today. I will say I've owned a lot of vehicles. Let me go ahead and get my seatbelt put on before the dinger never shuts up, because it will. Okay, one. Okay, we're gonna drive this Ford Bronco Sport, brand new. We're gonna go ahead and drive it around, kind of tell you guys what we think about it. I have drove this vehicle a few times before making this video, and it drove like butter. Comparable to the new CR-V, comparable to the new RAV4, I will definitely say that this vehicle rides and drives with at least on par with both those vehicles. It does ride, in my opinion, a little better. I will say that the noise cancellation inside the vehicle is a little bit better as well. As far as everything else goes, I don't notice as much because there's not a sunroof. So we don't have a sunroof in this vehicle, unlike CR-Vs and every other Honda vehicle we drive that has a sunroof in it to test out that. This vehicle drives super smooth. It takes bumps like no other vehicle I've actually been in, to be honest. So I will definitely give Ford on this vehicle like a 9 or a 9.5 on the ride quality and the noise cancellation. You cannot hear outside of this vehicle while driving it, as far as like wind noise, other vehicles driving. It is probably one of the best vehicles I've ever been in for that, especially with the ride quality. Now, as far as comfortability of the seats, things like that, they feel great, and the leather is awesome in this vehicle. So I have no complaints about the interior of the Bronco Sport. I will say it's a little smaller, so don't expect it to be the size of a Bronco. Don't expect it to be the size of like a Honda Pilot or a Land Cruiser or something of that size. It is very small on the inside. It is nothing large. But if you're looking for something that's small, compact, that gets good gas mileage, that is really cool with a lot of packed features, like really nice radio display, leather seats, things like that, this is definitely the vehicle for you, because this by far is one of the nicest vehicles I have got to drive this year alone. So I would highly recommend this vehicle to anybody that's looking for something in this price point, in this size, and with this amount of features. Some people can't live with something this small. I would definitely recommend going with something a little larger, but for this size and the features that you get, you definitely get a huge value with this vehicle by far. So we're driving this vehicle now. We're getting up to speed. Before we were driving it around 20, 30 miles an hour. Now we're gonna get to about 40, 50 miles an hour, and you can't hear the engine as well. That's what's crazy, is like when you take off in most cars and they struggle, especially with smaller four cylinders, you'll hear the four cylinder struggle. This vehicle, it does not do that, and it shifts where you can't even tell it shifts, which is awesome. And right now, like it's driving great. You can hear yourself talk. I don't even have a radio on. It's a very quiet, nice riding vehicle. So for the money, I definitely can tell you that this is an awesome vehicle. Now, as far as longevity, of how long this vehicle will last compared to a Honda or a Toyota, that I can't answer for you. And with it being brand new, it's hard to tell because we don't have enough feedback yet, but hopefully time will tell that maybe the Bronco is going to be the new vehicle for Ford that will last and stand up to the test of time with the longevity issue. So right here, right next to your start button right here, you have this big cubby, which is super nice. You can put your phone, you can put your keys, you can put your key fob, anything right here. That's a really smart idea, and it's got rubber in it so it won't move and it won't slide anywhere. That is a great idea right there. More people need to be doing that. And then you also have a second cubby down here to where you have your phone charger and your USBs down here, which is pretty awesome. But you also have this one up here. So you have two compartments to put everything that you have in it. The other cool part is you have a cup holder here and a cup holder here. You got two cup holders and cup holders in your doors, which is pretty awesome. You have at least the capability to do 6 cups in this vehicle because you have 2 per door and then you have 2 in the center console. There's a cell phone that you can fit in there perfectly. And down here, got a room to put a cell phone and then some. And you have your USB and chargers down in here as well, which is really nice.